I read A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I'm giving stars. Hello everyone, my name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to yet another reading vlog. This is not a weekend reading vlog. This is going to just be a reading vlog dedicated to one book and one book only. And if you couldn't tell by the title, I am reading A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I keep forgetting that Songbirds is plural in this title, but by Suzanne Collins. It is the prequel to the Hunger Games. I recently, in the month of May, reread the first two Hunger Games book and finally finished the third one. If you haven't seen any of those videos, they are on my channel. I don't want to say excited, but I'm intrigued because even if I hate the character President Snow, because this is about President Snow and the 10th annual Hunger Games, I'm really intrigued to see how the world is so freshly new. Like, it's a decade into this whole game situation that happened because of the huge war that broke out and the rebellion and whatever, and this is the punishment, right, for all the districts, the punishment and the reminder that we, like the capital, are in control. So I'm interested to see that world because we know as of the 75th Hunger Games, that is the last Hunger Games. I'm excited to see the world mainly in this. And I'm always intrigued by a gray character or an evil character who is thus fleshed out. I don't like the people, but I like the characters and I like learning about them. So we're gonna read A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Hey friends. I am now officially 12 pages into A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I find it a really interesting choice that Suzanne chose to set this in a time where the war is still really fresh in the capital, and like it's not as, and the Hunger Games is viewed more, at least from Coriolanus's point of view, as like a less of a thing to be celebrated. It still reminds them of the war and they're still struggling from the effects of the war, which is an interesting choice because it also puts a layer of like sympathy over this character that we know is awful. He's really obsessed with his self-image and how he is portrayed to his classmates, because him and his family are, he actually calls it as poor as district scum, which is really interesting. And I can tell that Suzanne is writing from Coriolanus's point of view. Even though it's a third-person narrator, it is still his point of view. We don't have Katniss's point of view where like it's a first person in the first one. This is third person, which is interesting, but it's just weird. I find it very weird that she would choose to start this on the reaping day. That I don't find weird at all. That's like the same as the Hunger Games, right? It starts on a reaping day, but it's him obsessing over the fact that he doesn't have a nice shirt to wear. And he's like, I can't, like, am I gonna have to call in? Am I gonna, and I'm like, this is such an interesting choice on Suzanne's part. She's trying to say something with this, and I'm interested. I'm also intrigued that Tigris is his cousin. Did we not know that from the original trilogy? That's new. But anyways, I don't really like Coriolanus. That's probably because I am tainted from the Hunger Games. We shall find out what kind of human this man is, or what he was, I guess, before he became actual President Snow. So I'll update you later. So the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, as I said, my opinion is flip-flopping. Coriolanus is terrible. I'm not a fan of him, but I will say that once I hit like the 50-page mark, I started actually getting a little bit into the story, and which is good, thank God, because it took me, like, I read 12 pages the first day I started this, and then I just put it down for nearly a week. Corio Snow is the epitome of the, like, rich asshole that everyone's like, eat the rich type of thing, because he's like, He doesn't like people who get their money through like not familial means. They get it through like building, like coming up in the ranks. He doesn't like those people. He wants to keep the sanctity of the rich people. It's wild, but he has no money. He is so poor that he has to eat boiled cabbage every day. And I'm like, where is your empathy? Where's your compassion? He has none. And then we meet Lucy Gray. And I gotta say, first time I met Lucy Gray, I was like, what is happening? Because she treats the raping like a show. It's written like she treats it like she's a pop star. And I'm like, what is happening? Why? And I was like, is this supposed to be her act of rebellion? And I was just like, I wrote here, I was like, I am baffled and intrigued by her because she's just so weird, but like you can tell it's a show. And she catches the attention of the Capitol. Let me tell you, they do not treat the tributes the same in this as they do in the Hunger Games. They treat them like actual animals. I don't like this entire time I keep writing down questions like, when did this change happen? When did the tributes become celebrity status? When were they actually put up in a normal like hotel, fed really well, and started to like actually dress them up and prepare them for interviews, making them look really pretty? And when did this happen? When was the switch that they decided to maybe let's not put our entire thing, like entire group of tributes in the same cell in a zoo, the old monkey cage, and let them starve to death? Like, when did that happen? When did the switch happen? I need to know. Because like in this, they have like, they're also, because Snow is in school and he's in one of his history classes, they have this thing where they just like come up with ideas for the games, and they're trying to make it more palatable for everyone around the Capitol because the Capitol hates the games, kind of. They're like, the half of them are like actually sympathizers with the districts, and they're like, we shouldn't just throw kids in an arena and let them kill each other. That's inhumane. And there's other people who are like, district scum aren't actually human. And I'm just like, this book is a lot. It's a lot to deal with. After, like, if you don't want to watch any further, because I am probably going to dive into spoilers after this, feel free to just like skip forward. I will put a timestamp on the screen if you wish to go to my end thoughts of the book, and skip all the spoileriness. But from here on out, there will be spoilers because now I'm talking about past the like 50-page mark. Again, just so many questions because the arena that they use for the games is an arena that doesn't change like it does by the 75th Hunger Games. And they let the tributes and their mentors go visit it beforehand so they can see things. It was originally like an arena used for shows and circuses before the war. And so it's the arena for the games. So it's like a Coliseum type thing, but huge, I guess, because the kids can still hide in it and it can still last for more than like a day, which is interesting to me. So I'm interested to see the actual games happen. But the thing is, in this, the games are going to be weird and less than, because like 8 of the tributes are already dead and they haven't even got to the games. They just keep, like, one of the girls got shot because she killed her mentor, which, like, she was completely, in my opinion, granted, and killed her mentor because her mentor was teasing her with food, and these kids are starving through, like, the bars of a cage, and they're treated like animals at a zoo, and I can't. This book is a choice. And then, like, after the bombing happens at the arena, when they're visiting the arena, more kids die and more mentors die. And it's just like, this games is not going to be a normal games, I guess. Also because it's the, 10th games of the world? So it's not yet ironed out or anything. But they don't even have a doctor go look at these tributes. They have a veterinarian. They literally see, like, when Corio is in the hospital because he was in the bombing, he's just like, do you know how my tribute is doing? Because he's actually, like, kind of fond of Lucy Gray. And the doctor's like, I wouldn't know, but they've got a top-notch veterinarian over there. I expect she'll be fine by the time they've got the games up and running. And like, Coriolanus is the one who finds out that these kids are being starved. They have not been fed since the nights of their reapings, which is 5 days ago. So he's there trying to feed Lucy Gray when he himself doesn't have any food. So like, there's aspects of trying to inject empathy into this. So that's why, and it's interesting, and it's really wild to see the games before they became what they are in the Hunger Games books, because they're like shows, right? And the Capitol is so invested and everyone is losing their minds. And it's interesting to see that that wasn't always the case, but I'm kind of angry because it is so hard to stomach. Like, there's parts where I've wrote on the page where I'm like, I have a bad taste in my mouth because of this. Like, this is hard to get through. And there's another one in there, that another mentor who's interesting because he's actually from a district, but he moved with his family to the capital, so he's like got a different side of things. But you can see in Corio's interactions with him that Corio is just a psychopath. Like, he doesn't get it. Even though he's been through all these hardships, he doesn't get it, and it drives me crazy. Him and Lucy Gray, when they're together, their banter and their like personalities are so strong that I can see why they're gonna work so well, because like, with Katniss, you have a really abrasive teenage girl. With Peeta, you have a really soft teenage boy who would do anything to help the person he loves. And you have a rebellion in the making with those two. These two would be the biggest rebellious people if they weren't set where they are. And if we didn't know that President Snow became President Snow, like, guys, this book. Anyways. So I'm going to stop rambling and keep reading the book, and I will update you when I'm a little bit farther in, and I will see if my feelings are still the same as this conflicted, just baffled, kind of angry state I'm in. If it's the same, I'm kind of sad about that, but like also good because I can analyze the book a little bit better when I'm angry with it. So anyway, I'll see you later. Hey friends, I'm now at part 3 of this freaking novel, page 323, and all the points from before still stand. Still intrigued by the world, still intrigued to see the origins of the Hunger Games and all that, but I'm just so mad by the choices made in this book. Okay, so first of all, we get into the games part of this, which I was very excited to see, but like, guys, they're so boring. Nothing happens. I made like a little thing today to gather my thoughts before I read even more infuriating stuff. And I wrote, I'm bored of these games because like nothing happens. You don't get to see most of the tributes ever because there's no cameras. Cause like in the arena, their technology is not as advanced and the kids are hiding in like bunkers and whatever and out of sight and you can't even hear what's going on. So it's like a silent show that like is incredibly boring because nothing's happening and there's not really any legitimate like game maker stuff happening. It's just kids killing each other. Like there's no mutts involved until a certain point when like one of the absolutely nuts game makers, Dr. Gall or whatever, decides to unleash a bunch of snakes by drone to like kill basically all of them in like retribution for one of the deaths that happened like after the fact from the bombing. Like he died of complications. So like I wrote down, it feels like we're watching people who are watching Naked and Afraid, but with murders occasionally. Like it's not even like we're actively watching that TV show. No, we're watching people who are watching that TV show. Like it's purely on President Snow's life, and he's such a terrible character. Some of the stuff that he thinks and that he says in this book are so just angering. And like his motives are so misplaced for keeping Lucy alive. He like is trying to pass it off as like he likes her, but like he just wants the money that comes out of winning the games. He just wants the prestige. And like I'm so mad at this book. Just in general, this feels like I'm reading Hunger Games fan fiction because it just doesn't feel like it's a final draft of a story. It feels like there needs still to be editing to inject some action into it, because like it's not even a good character study, because we're just getting this asshole who we know is going to be an asshole in the end anyways, because we see him when he's like president and old and whatever, and we see how much of a terrible human he is then. But like I wish that Suzanne Collins had done this in dual POV so that at least we could get an insight on the games and an insight on Lucy, because she's the only interesting character in this, and we only get to see her through the lens of the bullshit lens of Coriolanus, I don't even know his name, Snow. Like, I'm just so mad at this book right now, and I just want to like throw it out a window. I'm at part 3 now, and at the end of this, Lucy wins the games by like tricking the other guy into basically dying from like heat exhaustion or something crazy like that, because like the kids are so malnourished and just not taken care of and whatever. And then he gets like celebration, whatever, and then he gets pulled aside and he goes into a room with the Dean Highbottom, great name, who is the like the asshole who hates him, which like valid. Dean Highbottom has had some lines in here that I'm just like, Dean, like you're a creepy old man and you're the person who came up with the idea for the Hunger Games in the first place, but like some of the stuff you say is it's on point, and it's very self-aware. And he pulls Coriolanus into a room, and the meeting could not have lasted more than 5 minutes. Afterward, as agreed, Coriolanus headed directly to the recruitment center, where he became Panem's newest, if not shiniest, peacekeeper. So he's like, and there's a discussion earlier in this book where peacekeepers are basically like basically a glorified prisoner position, which is interesting. So now he's a peacekeeper. This would have been so much more interesting if we had Lucy Gray as the point of view, so like we could see her opinion of Corio, like, and him growing up. And it would have been, I think it would have been a better choice to have a dual POV in this one with Corio and then Lucy, so that we didn't have to read 500 pages of just pure bullshit. Like, I would be DNFing it if I wasn't doing this video, because I don't like. Just wanted to rant at you for a few seconds here because it's just not a good read. But I have like a sliver of hope, because I know Suzanne Collins is a good storyteller because of the Hunger Games, and like I know this is purely written from Corio's point of view, so like there are choices have been made and there's a discussion being had here. I just don't know why she even chose to do this. Like, what would have been really interesting is to see like Haymitch's story maybe, or like pick a different character from a different games, from a different district that we haven't explored yet, because we've only ever really explored District 13 and District 12, right? So like pick a different character to get submitted into the games, and like a really early games, like game number 10 or 11, and like see how that older games functions. That would have been cool. But yeah, yeah, I did comment on the fact that it feels like an early draft. It feels like Hunger Games fan fiction. Yeah, it's weird. I don't like that. It's fine. It's fine. I'm just really mad. I think I'm just going to stop, cool off for a bit, for like a hot second, and maybe I'll like play some Animal Crossing to make myself happy again, because I'm just angry at this book. So I'm gonna try and finish it before I talk to you again, because these clips are very long. Or if something like ridiculous happens, I'll update you. But I'm on page 323, and there are just over 500 pages in this book. So doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a lot. Anyways, this clip is friggin' so long, so I will catch you when I've read more. I finished A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And I don't even know where to start. All of my opinions previous in this video still stand, even more so. I hate Coriolanus with every ounce of my being. This man is the worst kind of human being. He's even worse than I thought he was in The Hunger Games. He is so... just... nope. I kind of hate it. I'm not gonna lie. Because... okay, so we're gonna go through the things that I hated and the things that I kind of liked about this book. We're gonna talk about the things that I hated first and then end on the like, because positivity. But hated many things. Hated that we only had Coriolanus's point of view. I hated that we were only in his head, because it skewed my entire opinion on this story, because he was just the worst person to see these events through. Like, he's just the most sociopathic, psychopathic, I can't remember which one is the right one, but he's just the worst, remorseless, just no empathy human being. He only thinks for himself. Like, there's, in the back here, there's a part, I highlighted it, and I was just like, this is exactly the sentiment that, or the statement that proves what kind of person he is. After Sejanus does something absolutely terrible, and like ropes Corio into this, but Sejanus does it out of the good of his heart, and like he wants to help people and whatever, but Corio ends up shooting a girl. He feels like he only does it just to protect himself, kind of thing. But then after that, Sejanus says, the commander's birthday isn't until next weekend. That was the night we were supposed to go. Corio, what if they arrest an innocent person for the murders? And the very next line, we see Corio's thoughts. They say, then our troubles are over, thought Coriolanus. Like, there's... like, this instant, I was like, this man is garbage. Once I got to the third part, I did see a little bit of an uptick in the story. I was like, oh, okay, we're having some moments here that I think I could actually get behind. A few moments between Corio and Lucy Gray that were pretty cute. We know that Suzanne writes a good romance. And I also low-key hate that we don't know what happens to Lucy Gray. I hate that we're left just standing with her story by the end of it, and we don't know how she, like, where she is. Nobody knows. She's become nothing more than just a story, and I hate it. I hate it so much, because she deserves so much better than that. Anyways, so enough about Coriolanus. He's terrible, we get this. This whole book is from his point of view, so it taints the whole thing a little bit. But also, this felt like Hunger Games fan fiction to me for the first two parts. It didn't feel well crafted enough. As I said earlier, the games were boring as hell. Like, there was nothing going on, and like the whole thing with the Hunger Games is that they're supposed to be entertainment, and this was not entertaining. I was bored. And then, like, it felt like she was just choosing to throw the characters into situations that just to try and spice it up, but it felt like fan fiction. So I'm editing this video, and I realized that the way I'm explaining that this book feels like fan fiction is like, it sounds like I'm being down on fan fiction. Fan fiction is incredible. There are amazing fan fictions out there that actually are better than many books, hence this one. This is done like bad fan fiction, which is like inconceivable coming from the author who wrote the original canonical texts, you know? So what I'm trying to say here is, it was 11:30 when I was filming this, so I was just like angrily muttering my thoughts. But what I'm trying to say is that the first two parts of this book felt like bad fanfiction, because You know, like when you're 11 years old and you're getting your toe into fan fiction, like I am a person who did this, but like I was writing and I would just be like, what if this happened? And what if this happened? Like, let's try and spice this up a little bit. I don't really know how to write and craft a story. Kind of feels a little bit like that with the way that Suzanne is putting her characters into situations that don't quite make sense with what we know from the world as is. And I don't know, I think because she realized how boring the games would be from just seeing the mentors watch the games and not having like proper a view into the arena like we do with Katniss's story, I think she just tried to make it more spicy with the bombing of the, not the bombing, she tried to make it more spicy beforehand with the bombing of the arena. And then she tried to make it more spicy with Sejanus going into the arena. But Sejanus' whole storyline wasn't really explored enough for me because Coriolanus just dismissed him all the time. There's so many more characters in this story that if she had picked them as points of view, we would have had such a much better story, I think. Like, if we had Lucy Gray's, as I said, we would have seen inside the arena, would have made that a little bit more interesting. We could have had a little bit more character moments between her and her fellow tribute from District 12. There's so much more that you could have done with this, and it feels, like I said previously in this video, that it's just not quite ready or finished enough. And it feels like bad fanfiction. Not fanfiction in general. Bad fanfiction. I wanted to clarify that because I am not shitting on fanfiction. I love fanfiction. I'm shitting on this book. That's what I'm doing. And then the third part came around and it got a little better because then we had a little bit more of Lucy in her home. She wasn't a caged bird anymore. She was pretty free and her family was beautiful. Like all the Coveys were just so amazing. And I wish that if Suzanne was really stuck on giving us Coriolanus's like story, I really wish she had like spliced it with Lucy's point of view on these events, because then it would have given us something to hope for, to wish for, a little bit of goodness in this to latch onto, because it's just so bitter the whole way through. It is such a choice to have picked this story, and I don't like this choice. But I will say, it was interesting to see the Hunger Games world at this point as to where it was. And it was interesting to see what kind of a person Corio was as a young human being versus when he's like well into his 80s, 90s by the time the 75th Hunger Games comes around. What else is good about this story? I mean, there's a few references to the original trilogy. Like, I like the concept of seeing the games, the 10th annual games, seeing like the mechanisms of making the games what they are 75 years later. I just can't get over the fact that we had to go through all of this with Corio's eyes. And he is like the worst kind of human possible. This is not even like a villain origin story, even though it kind of is. It's just hurt, like it hurt me physically. Many of these scenes in here, just some lines that he would say, like I had to stop, close my eyes and just sit there. And I've never had a book do that to me before. And I've had many 1-star books that I've just been disgusted with. This one hurt me physically, which is interesting. So I don't know what else to say about this other than that. Again, so many questions as to how the games progress from this point. It would be kind of interesting if we got like a novella that just like was a history book to give us a laydown of like the evolution of the games, because that really interests me, how this game became such an entertainment factor, how the capital people became so brainwashed and like loved it as people who like in our lives like love Survivor. Like it's that level of even more because everybody loves it. How did this game that started as a nest egg of punishment for the war and that many, many, many people despised, how does it become this incredible technological game that people love and cherish? And like, how? I want to know that, because we didn't really get a lot of that in this. There's so much in this world that she's created that we just don't see. And I wish we could. Like, I wish we could go to District 4 and see the fishing. Even if we don't get to see Finnick and Annie, but like a different time. Maybe Meg's story. I would love to get Meg's story instead of this. I read A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I'm giving it 2 stars. I hope you enjoyed watching either way, seeing me slowly descend from like reasonably anticipating this to absolutely hating it, and just being a mess of not knowing where my thoughts are and just being mad at it. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to do all that stuff that YouTube tells you to do, like comment and subscribe and all that wonderfulness. Let me know down below actually if you have read this or are planning to, and what do you think about it. I will catch you in another video soon. Stay kind and keep on reading.